listen up. All you ever asked for is an opportunity. You got it today. Where else would you rather be than right here, right now?
The Rockpile Report with Buffalo Bills season ticket holder Drew Gear.
Be aggressive. You have literally nothing to lose. You're a borderline football team. If I don't keep laughing about this stuff, my teeth are going to turn around and devour my brain.
The Bills make me wanna.
That relationship specifically with Ken and Josh is, again, he's coming into a room where, Brian does a lot of work with the quarterbacks already. So finding that niche role and position and then having a voice and a trusted voice and earning that with Brian, and that's been fun to watch. Josh has had a solid spring. He continues to grow and evolve, which is what's to be expected for a young player, a young quarterback, and Ken has had a big role in that.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Rockpile Report podcast. I am your host, Bills season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger, and that was Sean McDermott from BuffaloBills.com. Folks, it's finally over 70 degrees. We've actually started seeing the sun here in Buffalo. I was able to bust out the smoker, the patio set, the fire pit for the first time all year. And Richie Incognito is inexplicably playing football again. What a time to be alive!
Well, don't worry. It's supposed to be cold all week again.
Folks, it has been a long 2.5 weeks now. 2.5 weeks since we last recorded a podcast.
Yeah, we were supposed to do it last week, but Mom and Dad and my brother were here.
Folks, it's weird being away from the podcast now. It's a thing. It's a thing in my life that now you don't know you miss it until it's not there.
It's hard to get used to because we go what? Basically end of July to beginning of May every single week. But it's nice to have a break.
Is it nice?
It is.
Is it?
Yeah, because I don't get to see your dumb face.
So how was your week with your parents there, Chris? How's that mom of yours doing?
My mom's fine. Thank you for asking. My brother came in on a Tuesday, so we were all together basically Tuesday night, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then I had to take my brother to Rochester. But it was fun. Took him down to the waterfront, Buffalo History Museum.
Folks, for those of you who don't know, Chris's mother is a lovely woman who he forbids me to spend any time in the same room with. He actively avoids me being anywhere near his parents when they're here. And I think it's because I've informed him that if I ever get to hang out with your mom or around your friends, I'm going to find every excuse in the world to take my shirt off and just flex.
We don't need to see that at all.
No one needs that in their life.
Nope, not even
for you, Chris,
your
I would
wife.
make an exception. No, it's weird. I mean, literally our schedules are just filled up with rec league sports and drinking and yard work. It's weird, but there's nothing happening. There's nothing happening in the world of sports. I mean, when you think about it, Chris, what is there? There's the NHL playoffs.
Yeah,
those have been okay.
That's been great, especially if you look at, the Buffalo Sabres Twitters, people that tweet about the Sabres in relationship to Ryan O'Reilly. Well, Ryan O'Reilly, the greatest hockey player that has ever lived, better than Gretzky or Crosby, Malkin, the greatest player we've ever seen.
So it's interesting you mentioned the Sabres because as I was thinking about the Bills this past week, the Buffalo Sabres went out and handed, I know this is a football podcast, I'm not going to bore you with hockey. The Buffalo Sabres went out and spent $9 million on an 8-year contract for one of the premier 5-on-5 scoring wingers in hockey right now. Is that correct, Chris? Is that fair of me to say?
I'm not too much into the analytics
of
it, but yes, he's very good at scoring.
He's very good at scoring goals, and he's a young kid.
27.
Okay, so it got me thinking, because immediately after the contract was announced, the Boo Birds came out. The segment of sports fans who say, whoa, that's way too much money, that's a terrible deal. And it got me thinking about the Buffalo Bills, because I've heard similar things. Now, if you were the Buffalo Sabres over the last 5 years, the thing that your team didn't have was goal scoring. You lost an incredible number of games because your goal scoring was terrible. So the team went out and addressed goal scoring by paying a premium to do so. And the same people who were bitching before are still complaining. It's the same way with the Bills. You know, I've heard, you've heard for years the one side of the coin of, things like the quarterback position, Chris. The Bills haven't had a quarterback and they haven't had a quarterback. Well, we also haven't drafted one in the first round. So then we draft a quarterback in the first round and people complain about that. And how, we traded up and that was way too much. We gave up too much to get a quarterback. There's no pleasing people. And I have to ask the question, do you think that these kind of conversations only happen amongst losing fan bases?
Probably.
The Bills and the Sabres, two suffering franchises for a while now. Are we the only fans who have this half-glass empty look, and regardless of what the team does? I mean, are the Patriots over here when they say, they traded up to draft this guy or they drafted this wide receiver too high? Are those conversations that actually get had amongst fan bases of winning teams? I feel like they're not.
I wouldn't think so. It's just the death of me here, reading everybody on Twitter about that Skinner contract.
And that's what it is in football. You know, everyone complains. To myself, I've revisited this and reading about Devin Singletary, the running back. I bitched up a storm about how we had the oldest. I openly mocked our running back room for being the oldest in the NFL. So then the team goes out and spends draft capital to go get younger at the position. And I bitched about that. You know what? Shame on me. Shame on me because what are you supposed to do? You're putting, if that's your mentality, the team is damned if you do and damned if you don't. I mean, it's just a poor way to look at sports. So for those of you out there like me who felt that way, I urge you, get a couple beers, get drunk around a fire in your backyard when there's nothing happening with football, and try to take a more relaxed view of this about these moves and the offseason acquisitions, what they might mean. Because ultimately nothing's been proven and nothing, I don't want to say nothing matters, Chris, but Jesus.
Just get drunk and watch film on YouTube and learn about the player you hate. Simple as that.
Well, it's hard not to. I mean, because right now, I don't want to focus on negative things. That's not who I am. But it's so hard this year. Chris, the NFL hype machines are rolling right now. Now that teams have hit OTAs and minicamp. I hate the NFL offseason with a white-hot passion. We know that. I mean, my disdain for the combine is well documented. But I understand. There aren't meaningful games being played. These outlets like ESPN and Pro Football Talk, they have to find a way to get people to click on their stuff so that they can keep their lights on, so that they can feed their kids, so that they can pay college tuition. These are things that they have to worry about. But sometimes it's just unbearable, Chris. It's optimist season. Every fan base out there still has that why not us mentality about winning a Super Bowl. So it's almost impossible to find tempered, insightful sports writing. I mean, Chris, trying to find it makes me feel like Nick Cage trying to steal the Declaration of Independence.
I don't even know what Nick Cage is.
Of course not, because you don't watch movies. Every media outlet out there wants you to believe that every fan base, every franchise, including yours, including the ones that are just mired in dysfunction. I mean, think, Chris, Oakland. People are still looking at Oakland with rose-colored glasses on. You have a coach who, of questionable ability at this point in his career.
9 more years.
You have a quarterback who you don't know if he's your franchise guy, but you passed on addressing the situation this year. You have a wide receiver who's proven to be a volatile personality, thrown into a room with Vontaze Burfict and now Richie Incognito. That's a good idea. And yet somehow outlets are still pointing to that group and saying, oh, look at all the ways things might go right for these guys. Chris, I can't.
Oakland's going to be a fucking disaster.
So with that, I mean, Chris, that's their attitude. A beer in every hand, an ass in every seat, peace on earth, goodwill towards men. Everybody's team is awesome right now. And there's nothing you can do about it because football isn't even being played. But just look at some of the crap that's rolling around out there. I mean, Chris, here's some headlines. Pro Football Talk. Davante Adams finds new offense, quote-unquote, electrifying. Here's a direct quote from this article. He says, it's an electrifying offense, Adams said of the Jim Rome Show. It has a lot of big play potential. I shit you not, 2 sentences later, he goes on to say, well, schematically, it's not anything we haven't seen or done before. I just really like the potential. Think about that. It's gonna revolutionize football, but it's stuff that we've done before in the past. What's new about it? Chris, what's different?
I have no idea. Devontae Adams still with the Packers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what's different is his coach is in a wheelchair. That's the difference.
It doesn't make it, it's nonsense. It's nothing. It's literally just the entire interview is full of just throwaway statements. Another Pro Football Talk article. Tevin Coleman says Kyle Shanahan has become more creative since his days as an offensive coordinator since Atlanta. So what? Since joining the 49ers, Shanahan, guys, he has achieved the task of fielding bottom 20 scoring offenses through his first 2 seasons. And then you look at this past offseason, they brought in a handful of raw rookie wide receivers who may or may not pan out, and added a running back to a roster that don't have a proven 16-game starter at quarterback anywhere on the roster. More creative. And first of all, what is there to feel good about there? Second of all, more creative. That, to me, that's almost a slap in the face to I read that as an insult to the GM who hired Shanahan. Because if he's more creative now than he was then what were you doing? He hasn't proven he can do anything on offense. It's all nonsense. But there's fans who read this stuff and walk away from it patting themselves in the back, telling themselves and everybody else that it's going to be okay because so-and-so said so. And that's where it leads us tonight to NFL Network's Michael Robinson.
Buffalo Bills. And the reason why I had to get my sheet, guys, is because they had all of these off-season additions. First of all, Frank Gore, Hall of Fame, I blocked for him. He's going to be a guy that's going to be able to talk to Shady and say, look, bro, you need to run a little harder, or whatever the case may be. He's going to be there to help Shady. Cole Beasley, always open. A nice guy that's going to be open for Josh Allen whenever he gets in trouble. And then they took care of the offensive line, guys. They took care of the line of scrimmage. Spencer Long, Mitch Morris, Ty Nsekhe, Adrian Waddle, Jake Fisher. Look at all of those names across the offensive line along with the guys that they already have. They drafted. And Cody Ford, I was getting to it. Cody Ford, I love the pickup. And then Ed Oliver on the defensive side to push that pocket that Tom Brady likes to have. I like the Buffalo Bills. Now, it's June. Yes. I have to tell the viewers that. It's June. This could change next week. But right now, I got the Buffalo Bills winning the AFC East.
Damn! Whoa! Get it again, nice and clean.
You've heard it right here. The Buffalo Bills will win the AFC East. What's the date? June 3rd? Let's get it, Buffalo.
Wow. Wow. Holy shit, Chris. I mean, that seems like a hot take, but I feel like I've heard this somewhere before.
Oh, well, you would think this year. I think they now have their quarterback. I think Tyrod Taylor is a franchise quarterback. I mean, you look at 20 interceptions, 20 TDs, only 6 interceptions, pass rate almost at 100. He's very efficient with the football. Rex always talks about his speed, talks about his running ability. But I think his abilities, coupled with Greg Roman's run scheme and how he calls offense and how he calls plays, he has to get a little bit better in between the numbers. But his abilities, coupled with Greg Roman's offensive scheme, I think it can be deadly in the AFC East, and they can definitely challenge the Patriots this year. And right now I got them winning it.
I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills. First of all, because I trust Tyrod Taylor. The guy does not turn the football over, 6 interceptions last year. But some of the additions, including the head coach Sean McDermott, including the defensive coordinator and Leslie Frazier, because last year this defense left their cornerbacks on an island way too often. That cannot happen if they want to be able to threaten the New England Patriots. And they have LaShawn McCoy. They run the football. They run the football with authority. That's what's going to be important if you want to beat the New England Patriots. They got to feel you on the field. They got to feel your will. They got to understand that you're there and you mean business. If they can get that guy going right there and get him in space, it does not matter who's on the defensive side. He'll make a miss.
Michael Robinson, NFL Network, 3 of the last 4 years, 16, 17, and 19, predicting us to win the division.
Exotic offenses in Greg Roman. Tyrod Taylor's a franchise quarterback. I can't.
Yep.
I can't? What are we talking about here? What is happening?
Off-season team activities.
I feel like Will Ferrell in Old School when he just grabs the folding chair and starts smashing his way out of the locker room. What are we talking about? Folks, I saw it everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, the whole nine. Everyone's going crazy about, oh, look, some national person is giving us props for what we did in the offseason. This guy could not. First of all, when he said that when he picked us to take the division, he was wearing a skinny tie and a short sleeve button down shirt. You're immediately suspect. You don't even have to open your mouth, and I already feel like you don't know anything. Second of all, he references Eric Fisher.
Jake Fisher.
Jake Fisher wasn't even on the roster when he said this. That's how little he pays attention to any of this. And yet you have people patting themselves in the back, walking away from this, going, we feel better now. Someone in the national media understands.
Yeah, they made him say, like, repeat the date. Like, dude, you've done this. You did this in 16 and 17.
He picks the Bills to win every single season. If being wrong about this type of stuff on national television was grounds for actual punishment, he'd be locked up and waiting for his shot to ride the lightning.
We should get him on the show.
Guys,
we should get him on the show.
I'm just as much a fan as anybody else. I've refused to sell my tickets, despite the conversations that we've had about it, for the Bills versus Patriots every single year since I've been a ticket holder. Now, obviously, that's the game that if you're going to try to make money off your tickets, that's going to be the biggest draw. I've refused on the principle that I was there in 2011 when the Bills beat the Patriots, and that feeling was, I'm assuming that's something like what other fans feel like when their team wins the Super Bowl. That's what it felt like, Chris. And I'll be damned if I miss that. That's how much I just want it. But wanting it and just predicting it to happen on national television are two totally different things.
In June.
I mean, the fact that this guy's allowed to get on TV every year and pick the Bills to win the division with no evidence to really support that. Not to mention naming players who aren't even on the friggin' roster. I appreciate the attaboy from a major network. And I understand that they have to do or say something that they know is going to create traffic. It's going to create buzz. People are going to talk about it. Bills fans all over the place. Probably, Chris, I'm assuming you can guess what the reaction amongst our fan base was. People hear that and say, oh, look, somebody gets it. Yeah, the same guy who thought that Greg Roman was a genius and Tyrod Taylor was the savior of this franchise. That's the guy that you want to ride behind.
I like that people tweeted it at us because they've been listening to the show long enough that we know Michael Robinson has done this before.
If I could say anything to Michael Robinson, it's stop pandering to my fan base, you hack, and go do some actual journalism. Go do some actual journalism. I'm not buying what you're selling, okay? And hopefully I'm not the only person who sees it that way. The Bills, obviously, and that's where we get to our OTA and minicamp discussion, because the Bills aren't immune to this sterling optimist view of things. I mean, Chris, Josh Allen's already been named to the Pro Bowl. I don't know if you heard that.
I mean, wouldn't surprise me. I mean, they're going to need quarterbacks not out of the playoffs by that point.
Guys, don't hate me for saying this. I mean, I was a guy who needed a mountain of convincing that Josh Allen truly deserved a fair shake at quarterback in the first place. And I've come a long way since then. Last season, I saw him do a lot of things that made me think he had the potential to grow into a great quarterback, if not at a minimum, a good to reliable one. I mean, we haven't had that. That's how bad we've been for 20 years at the quarterback position. So if he can bring some kind of even just continuity, I'll take that. But at what point does the positivity become too much? Almost like a shitty Hallmark Christmas card. Or like one of those movies they put on the Lifetime Network that's supposed to make you feel good and go out and buy things around Christmas time. I mean, between the fans and the media, some of this has gotten out of control. Bill's Wire was quoting an NFL Network article about how Bill Polian is comparing Josh Allen to Jim Kelly and Peyton Manning. And there's another article out there about Josh Allen taking the reins and that he's taking over and he's a leader. I understand that the guy, given that he's got a year of NFL experience, probably looks better in OTAs this year, at this point during practices, than he did last year. Who cares? Chris, it's pitch and catch in shorts where no contact is allowed. He spent a year in the NFL. He should look better at this point. If he didn't, you'd be hearing the polar opposite, that the sky at Orchard Park had already fallen and that it was chaos and anarchy in the streets.
Well, I give credit to the take of he's the only one, and I don't even put Lamar Jackson in this category because I don't think he's ever going to be on the level of the two Joshes, Sam Darnold and who am I missing? Baker Mayfield. But Josh Allen's the only one that's returned to the same system he was in last year. I think that has a little bit of something to it.
Maybe. And you know what? I want to be an optimist, but guys, let's not get carried away with this. Okay, this isn't supposed to be the wet blanket podcast, but it feels that way. Because I can't take, if you're too positive, I feel like I have to bring people back down to earth. And if people are too negative, I feel like you got to kind of bring them back to the middle. That's where I am. I just want to live in the middle. And there's a lot of what gets talked about this time of year. All of these articles that have to be written, that we were just talking about. Media outlets have to keep their doors open. They have to write about something, but a lot of it is nonsense. They're all non-stories. There are a few things that I consider to be actually newsworthy, and I'd like to talk about them, Chris. First of all, Ed Oliver's workload and his spot in the rotation. Okay? After the draft, you and I sat down with WGR 550's Nate Geary, and we discussed the pick of Ed Oliver, and we all landed in the same place. Patience was going to be the key with Ed Oliver. I mean, the knock on him coming into the draft, and the only reason he probably wasn't the top interior defensive talent, was that his size wasn't prototypical for a defensive tackle. And there was some in the scouting community that kind of, they said, well, he played more of a nose tackle role. It's going to take some, not that he doesn't have the skill set for it, but it's going to take some time transitioning to being, the Kyle Williams penetrating 3 technique defensive tackle. Especially when you're talking about going up against competition that he didn't see playing at Houston. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's Houston. I don't think they don't play anybody.
No, they said Ed Oliver's one of the first 5-star athletes to sign with a non-Power 5 school. And so he didn't see not that he can't go up against top-level competition, but he didn't see it. So it's going to take him a while to get used to that and get the technique down that it's going to need, really cement that technique so that he's not a liability. Because, obviously the guy can penetrate. But to not be a liability against the run, that's tough to learn at the NFL level when you haven't been going up against NFL caliber talent across from you. So it was interesting and encouraging on the part of our staff to see that he seems to be working in very slowly to the rotation. Jordan Phillips has gotten essentially all of the first team reps, and Oliver has just been backing him up. Now, in his press conference, Leslie Frazier echoed our sentiments, stating that this was the plan. We're going to bring Ed along slowly because he's got techniques and things that he has to learn. And they're not rushing him out there. And that it's good for his development to be working alongside not only veterans like Star Lotulelei, but players who just went through their rookie season, like Harrison Phillips. And that he can kind of get the full gamut of experience from these guys while not having so much put on his plate. I'd argue that this is one of the more encouraging things to come out of anything from OTAs for me. Considering that as Bills fans, we've witnessed our share of mismanagement in terms of player development and what comes afterwards in the fallout. Chris, you remember James Hardy?
Isn't he dead?
Yes, he did pass away, Chris.
All right.
James Hardy, former second-round draft pick, 2008. Big frame wide receiver, but he had no power in his lower body whatsoever. He was never coached up or developed in terms of play strength, and because of that, he was just jammed at the line every single game. I think he finished with 24 career catches, and that was it for a second-round draft pick wide receiver. All because you didn't properly evaluate his weaknesses and strengths and coach him up on his weaknesses before you put too much on his plate. And then E.J. Manuel, he's another perfect example of it.
He's got huge hands. Talk about hand size.
Oh, my God, I'll bite your nose off. Manuel had all the physical tools to play the quarterback position. Just like most guys who get drafted into the NFL. You have to have some level of talent to be drafted to play in quarterback, no matter where it is. His issues were all about what was going on inside his helmet on a snap-to-snap basis. And when Kevin Kolb got injured slipping on a rubber mat at training camp, there was a knee-jerk reaction by this front office and this franchise to put an underprepared rookie out there on the field. I mean, and maybe that's partly Doug Marrone. That maybe was Doug Marrone's thing. I mean, you think about it, when Doug Marrone got hired here, he had Ryan Fitzpatrick as his quarterback. And I'm sure he assumed that was going to be his quarterback when they drafted E.J. Manuel. That was going to be the plan. And then Fitzpatrick was gone. And then they rushed this rookie out there. Because remember how quickly he benched Manuel the following year?
Yeah.
He didn't even,
got Kyle
his
Orton.
second season in Buffalo, he didn't even get to play a full year before getting benched. I just feel like when you mismanage highly drafted players, you all but ensure the fact that they're going to fail. And if not fail outright, that they're never going to reach their potential. So at least we know, if nothing else, this team under this regime is handling a highly drafted kid with a lot of potential in a way that makes sense. Chris, I can't remember the last time I could say that. I can't. So if there's anything else you take away from this, it's that I'm starting to feel better and better as time goes by. Just that these guys know what they're doing from top to bottom. And then there's obviously the health situation of everybody on the roster. I mean, as we underscored during our last show, that's one of the only things I care about. Can we make it out of this process of the preseason healthy and intact and in one piece without losing any significant parts of our offense? So when I run it back, any kind of time missed during the early parts of the season, Chris, is huge in terms of picking up game and still, information for when you do get to training camp. Because when you get to training camp, it's a competition. You get a couple days of, hey, we're going to get everybody, we know you knock a little bit of the rust off because it's been a month and a week away from football. But then it's go time and you're fighting for a job. This is the time when you can install the playbook, when you can slowly roll things out to guys and get them the level of understanding that they need to come in and compete. And anybody who misses time during this, it matters.
Yeah, that definitely matters, especially if you're a rookie or you signed here as a free agent.
Exactly. So with that, there are some things of note that are worth talking about. Like, first of all, that is a huge round of applause for our training and medical staff for somehow keeping Kevin Johnson and E.J. Gaines alive through the first handful of weeks of practice.
Yeah, it's all that new.
Kudos to them.
It's that new facility.
I mean, I'm not trying to be insulting. Kevin Johnson showed some elite traits as a DB in his first year. But he's essentially a younger version of Samuel L. Jackson's character, Mr. Glass. And E.J. Gaines seems to have the knees of Eric Dickerson. Except today, not when he was a star back in the 70s and 80s. It's just, they're two guys who have had a long, even when E.J. Gaines played for us, he missed 5 games?
Yeah, he missed 5 or 6 games.
It's encouraging to see that they're not only contributing in practices, but that so far there's been no injury news. That's worth applauding. Then Matt Milano. Now this is a big one, Chris. Matt Milano being back to full speed. I mean, the NFL requires you to play a ton of nickel defense, and one of my biggest concerns this season was the fact that if Matt Milano were to struggle coming back to form, I mean, mind you, it wasn't a ligament injury. He broke his leg. And they said he should make a full recovery, but you still need to see the guy get out there and do it, especially after not being able to fully work out for months while he rehabbed. So seeing that he's out there running around making plays, showing like he did last season at this time, that's encouraging, right? That has to make you feel better about the direction of our defense because we're trying to take that step forward. Last year we were a very good defensive unit, especially in coverage. If you want to be elite, you need a guy like Matt Milano to be playing top-level football.
And to think, you wouldn't have said that sentence 3 years ago or whenever we drafted him.
We've talked about this. My draft takes are like Michael Robinson's division predictions. They're just straight trash. There's 2 of concern. The first being Mitch Morse. Okay? 2 things that concern me. The fact that the most expensive center in football didn't take any reps during OTAs and he only saw the field in a non-contact jersey, that doesn't make me feel good. That just puts just a bad feeling in the bottom of my stomach. Chris, it's like that thing when you come out of the store and you see your car door open and you wonder to yourself, did I leave that open or did someone just rob me? Oh, I don't know. Oh, come on, like that doesn't happen to you?
Well, Jesus, if I would think you would have robbed me then.
All I can say is this. He's a guy who's supposed to be developing chemistry, not just with the quarterback, but with the other guys around him. Okay? The center is the linchpin of the offensive line. He was apparently with the team to end OTAs with a non-contact jersey on and got through some walkthroughs, which is encouraging. But with no Bodine missing all of OTAs and potentially minicamp, I mean, it's not going to be until training camp that we get to see either one of these guys play with some pads on, get a little bit of contact, get an understanding of what the guys next to them are doing. I just feel like it's not promising in terms of their development and their chemistry with Josh Allen. It's not guaranteed to just fit like a glove just because you have a new center. You know, there needs to be some work there. I hope they're doing it away from practice. I hope that they're getting on the same page. We're just going to have to wait and see. And then the other one that's not quite as concerning, but it's still up there, Quinton Spain. I mean, I put that at a 2. If Mitch Morse is a 4 out of 5 on my concern scale, this is probably a 2 out of 5. Spain was a late free agency addition, and I thought he was a steal. And he's expected to land a starting gig like he has for years down in Tennessee. But he too suffered an injury, and he had to go surgery on his thumb. Now that's another blow to the depth that this team tried really, really hard to focus on the blocking up front this offseason. So knowing that you've got this, Morse, now Spain, Bodine didn't take any snaps. This is rough. In terms of offensive line and blocking, OTAs haven't been kind to us. Morse, Spain, Bodine, Croft, Ty, and Secchi all missed time or had a medical procedure this offseason. And Chris, what do you think about that? That most of the guys who are supposed to be protecting our quarterback have been some level of banged up throughout the course of just the first few weeks of the actual preseason program. I
don't like that Morse and Spain, who I would, they're veterans. I kind of look at it as from a Ed Oliver viewpoint. He's not going up against the best that we have in practice, and I'm sure he could get some pointers from Mitch Morse if, think like 5 consecutive reps, Morse owns him. And then he can tell Ed Oliver, hey, I'm doing this. This is why you're not beating me in this drill. Because I'm doing this to you.
I mean, if there's a silver lining here, it's that the depth players that are left on this roster, Feliciano, Long, Wyatt Teller, they've all gotten mixed in with the starters, which, if there's a silver lining to it, it's that it'll make the competition for starting jobs. Because, Chris, let's face it, for the first time in a long time, on the offensive line, this team, before the season starts, is going to cut players that probably could start on some rosters, but are rosterable across the league. This team is going to cut some good football players on the offensive line for the first time in a very long time. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, especially if they don't get picked up. Then you can just re-sign them when someone else gets injured.
Jesus. See, glass half full. What was I talking about earlier? Because outside of that, there's really not a whole lot going on here. There isn't. I mean, there are, but rather than speculate about what it all may or may not mean to the team's fortunes in 2019, based on the word of some guys who are standing in the bleachers, writing on a clipboard, I'm more interested to talk to somebody who's a little closer to the action. And so with that, we welcome tonight's guest.
He don't like almonds, and he loves Sweet Baby Ray's.
I'd like to put some barbecue sauce on that button.
He doesn't swear.
Funky butt-loving.
Buffalo Bills long snapper, Reid Ferguson.
Dude, I totally miss you. I really fucking miss you.
Reid, how are you doing tonight, brother?
Guys, I'm doing great.
Folks,
great intro.
We got Reid Ferguson in studio tonight. He's sitting here with us. Now, Reid, first of all, You just got back into town from a wedding. Okay. Are you a dancer?
I think that
only
depends.
at wedding. I would say only at weddings.
But that also depends if your girlfriend is with you, which she was not for this wedding.
Yeah, it was more of like just a little side shuffle.
So that's
snap,
gonna be my
kind of moving with the beat.
That's what I want to know right now. If you're forced to dance, what is your go-to move? Just the white guy two-step with like a clap thrown in, or are you a snapper? Like, do you snap your fingers, or are you more of a clap? Do you shoot the guns?
I don't shoot the guns, but I
no finger guns for Reid Ferguson?
No finger guns. No, I'm not a very good on-the-spot dance move guy.
Okay, so that probably answers my next question. As an athlete, do you think you have the flexibility to pull off the worm or the curly shuffle?
I can do the worm.
Attaboy.
Not doing it tonight, but
I'm not doing it tonight. I should hope not. Chris doesn't mop his floor. Don't
What's
do
the
that.
curly man?
The curly shuffle,
Curly
where you
shuffle.
lay on your side and run in a circle.
I never tried
But
that.
you have to go. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Oh, that's like a Homer Simpson thing.
And where do you think he stole it from? One last wedding-related question before, because I'm incredibly interested by this, because I know you, now that I've gotten to know you personally and your personality. Are you a wall leaner? Are you a sit at the table and have a conversation guy? Or are you stand just close enough to the dance floor so people don't think you're antisocial, but far enough away from the bar so that people don't think you're a drunk kind of guy?
I'm all three, and I think it depends on the wedding. Because I went to this wedding in New York City. The couple that got married were from Dallas.
Okay.
So my buddy that got married, I roomed with him at LSU for a couple of years. He's a kicker down there. He's about a year older than I was. But I didn't know. I don't really know anybody. I guess I should say I didn't know anybody at the wedding except for a few people that had LSU relations that ties to him and to myself that may have went to school there or that I just met through him like once, and it's like, oh, nice to see you. It's been 7 years, or however long, 5 years ago, however long it's been. But and I knew his dad, his brother and his two sisters were there. But when you don't know a lot of people, I'm more of a sit down, chit chat,
maybe hang out by the wall.
If I know a lot of people, I want to be, you get out there and be social and.
Golden opportunity, because see, I see that whole situation differently. I look at it as
I'm never going to see these people.
I'm never going to see these people
so
again.
I can act like a fool. No, I get it. Nope, I get it. I get it.
Oh, well, Reid, it's good to know you're a better man than I am.
Speaking of weddings, happy anniversary to you yesterday.
Thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate that, sir. Yeah,
I wish I wasn't in that wedding.
The wedding was a blast last year.
Yeah, I wish I wasn't in that wedding so I could have left immediately. And not have to fly on the wall, sit down to the table guy. Or
if you didn't go to the wedding, you would have missed those delicious cupcakes.
Yeah, folks, Reid was at my wedding last year, and it was...
I was eyeing the cupcake table.
Oh, my God, he's a dessert fiend. It was hilarious. So... But you know what's funny? For a guy who's, maybe not the most outgoing guy in the entire world, I mean, I'm not going to call you shy, but I'll say he's probably not as boisterous as some people, especially not some NFL football players.
He's the equivalent of Antonio Brown. He'll show up to training camp in a red and blue fur coat.
And a Rolls Royce.
Yes.
Top down.
If there's a polar opposite of that, yes, that would be Reid.
Yep.
But that doesn't stop you from getting out and doing things. Guys, Reid has been incredibly active in the community just in the past few months. First of all, today, participation in the Ponchos Pack, that whole fundraising endeavor. What was that like for you?
Yeah, that was really amazing. So a lot of the volunteers that came and wanted to help, gosh, I don't even know how many people were there. It was probably, I want to say at least 100 people that showed up.
That's awesome.
We had like 8 or 9 assembly lines with 10 or more people helping out, plus extra people as runners. That's what I was doing.
And was it
running
boxing?
More supplies.
I would say, was it making the backpacks in order to send them? Was it boxing them?
So basically the backpack started at you start the backpack at the beginning of the line and you just pass it down, and each person on both sides of the table just shoves one item into the backpack. So you get, there were binders, packs of pencils, some hand sanitizers,
Mhm.
a pack of that, like coloring books, just
It's incredible
general
how
stuff,
much.
but
It's incredible how much money was raised for that thing.
unbelievable.
That had to be cool to be a part of today.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. The amount of people that showed up, and a couple players were there to help out for a little while, but I was there for about 2 hours, and I think it started at 2. I left around 3:30, and I think we had just surpassed 2,500.
Wow.
I think they finished 5,000 in about 3 hours. So I had to leave halfway through, but 2,500 backpacks in an hour and a half.
That's incredible.
It was unbelievable.
And guys,
we
for
were
any-
just moving. I mean, I would say like 90% of the people in there were sweating. We were
Oh, I'm
moving
sure.
So fast.
Guys, for any of you out there listening right now who donated, huge thank you just from people who got the opportunity to meet the guy, and just the fact that this fan base, it doesn't matter what, we're one of the most, that's who we are. The Buffalo, we're not the fanciest group of people in the entire world, but we try to pick other people up when they need it. And this was a strong move for us as a fan base, and I'm real proud. I'm real proud to be associated with all this. And Reid, awesome that you could be there for it today.
Yeah, fortunate to be able to.
And now you're forever immortalized with your own 26 shirt. You have
Yes.
your own.
That was
I
phenomenal.
bought one. I got mine coming.
That was phenomenal, yeah.
I mean, it's not quite a Lombardi trophy, but it's got to be pretty cool to know that you're immortalized forever in a T-shirt specifically made for Buffalo sports fans.
Absolutely. It's up there. One of my proudest achievements.
That's
When-
awesome.
Talking to...
When did Dell approach you about that?
we have been sitting on that shirt since February.
Oh, wow.
And he wanted to wait for the prime time because it wasn't going to be one of their main 2-week-long shirts. It was going to be a special edition. So it was only on the website for maybe 5 days, the 4th through the 9th. And they wanted to wait till June 9th,
Till June 9th,
6/9,
number 6/9, yeah.
to end in the fundraiser for the shirt. So yeah, we've been sitting on it since about February, waiting for the perfect time, and yeah, I saw Dell at the event today. So got
That's
some good
awesome.
feedback from him on the shirts. So
And there again, kudos to any of you listening who now own a Reid Ferguson themed T-shirt. 'Cause
Yes.
that's still just hilarious to me. Larissa went and bought one.
love it.
So let's talk about some football. All right, We've talked some nonsense. I want to get to know, first of all, vibe around the team. Now, in the past, you've articulated for us, how the vibe around the facility has changed over the years that you've been here. You were here for, I think, the final year of Rex Ryan's. That was your first year.
Yeah, that was my rookie
Rex
year.
Ryan's final year. And the change just in the dynamic and the behind-the-scenes stuff from when he left to when McDermott came here, from making the playoffs to a season where everyone kind of expected some adversity. Whether anyone was willing to admit it. Our GM almost came out and said, look, this is going to be a year. We might take this on the chin, but we're building towards something, so be patient with us. And now we've transitioned into a season where I think for the first time in a while, Rex Ryan, not since Rex Ryan's first season, the first time where I feel like there's real expectation here in the community and in the fan base. What's it like behind the scenes for you guys? Do you guys feel any of that expectation? Like you expect to be better than 6-10 this year?
Right. Yeah, I would say, in terms of behind the scenes, I guess media expectations is different than expectations we have for ourselves.
Oh, of course.
Obviously we're the ones going out there and practicing every day and doing the workouts and conditioning and whatnot. And, we're optimistic about where we're going this year. Everybody's hoping to, obviously we're going to put our best foot forward. Going back to what you were saying about the flip from Rex to McDermott now, he has, him and Brandon Beane have changed the way people look at this organization in a good way, obviously. But I think it speaks to who they are as people and also who they've brought in to be a part of this team and the coaching staff as well. People that genuinely love each other, and Coach always brings that up. That it's as men, it's not always, you don't always want to talk about loving another dude.
Feelings,
right? Your feelings,
because emotions
you
are
want to hold
weakness.
it all inside, right?
Emotions are weakness.
And it's really, and he's really the past. Well, it was going on 3 years, broken down that barrier to where you can see it on the field, in the film room. Guys are playing for one another.
Well, that's a far cry from where we were when we had a guy who was eating dog biscuits and pounding his chest about how I'm taking us places, because it was about him. It wasn't about us. It wasn't about you guys as a unit. It was about him. I can imagine that that's kind of a shift, and it's good to hear that he's still building that. I mean, I'm sure these new guys. I mean, people look at what we accomplished in the offseason, bringing in all these free agents and doing all this stuff. Well, that doesn't happen if people don't sit down with your head coach and sit down with your GM and think to themselves, these guys have a plan, and I want to be a part of that plan. When you're a talented player, you can go sell your trade anywhere. So the fact that you choose to come to a place like this is because you feel that. You feel that vibe. And it's encouraging to hear that I'm not just imagining this in my head, that it's actually taking place behind the scenes.
And I think, to just one more point to build on that, I mean, in terms of they're still changing it, I mean, we signed, 17 free agents? Mm-hmm. That's a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
From year to year. And that's just in free agency.
Yep.
That's not the draft class. That's not any undrafted rookies that will make it. That's not guys that will sign during the season, potentially. You know what I mean? 53 guys and then, 10 practice squad guys. That's a lot of turnover. And it's a work in progress. That's how you look at it.
And I think if anybody's up to the task, though, like I said, McDermott came in here and shocked the world because people said, oh, well, he's a new head coach, no experience. He's never done this before. What are his odds that he's actually going to... And they won 9 games.
Right.
I mean, that right there with Tyrod Taylor, who, if you ask Michael Robinson, he's a franchise guy. He should be leading a team somewhere, I think. Right?
Yeah, he's the NFL version of Ryan O'Reilly. The greatest athlete and quarterback we've ever seen in the history of the NFL.
And you cannot forget Nate Peterman and Joe Webb.
Oh, yeah.
We would not have won that snow game.
Yeah?
Without those two quarterbacks.
See, now it's funny hearing a player remind me of those guys, because usually if a fan were to bring up Nate Peterman, you're like, oh, the punchline's coming. But you guys have an understanding of, look, everybody contributed.
Yes.
And I think that's...
Joe Webb was the left slot on the punt team that game. And then he played quarterback.
It's interesting just seeing what it is McDermott's doing here from a psychological standpoint, because you're talking about a football team that went into that Jacksonville game. Today I watched the Josh Allen, Chris Sims video on YouTube. I encourage you guys out there listening right now to go find that. It's worth the 17 minutes I think it takes to watch it. And he picks his brain about some of these things. He was talking about the Jacksonville game. But I think the thing that I took away from that game was that, unlike the Rex Ryan team where he just got on a podium and banged his fist about it, he was going to build, quote unquote, build a bully. And I'm going to build a bully and we're going to tough guy everybody. And that's it. It took a guy like Sean McDermott, quiet, understated, never gives you anything. And then you see a football team that when somebody punches you, you hit them back. And that fight was the moment that it kind of clicked for me. It's like, okay, we're actually building something here, because the whole team responded in a way that blew the Jaguars off the map from that point in the football game on. They were never a factor.
Yep.
So that's interesting to see how all these new guys acclimate to it. It's going to be one of the bigger stories going through the preseason, is just how does everyone gel? How does everyone come together? But I think that McDermott really has built an environment where you can bring guys in and get them to acclimate quickly, not just on a X's and O's level, but also on a personal level, which is important if you want a team that's going to go out there and fight tooth and nail for each other.
Absolutely.
Now, I could sit here and ask you about wide receiver depth charts and what's going on with the quarterback.
Plead the fifth.
Exactly. So what I want to talk to you about tonight.
Christian Wade?
Big soccer guy.
Oh, really? I wouldn't know if he came from England.
He came from England. He's a big soccer guy. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Okay, since Chris brought it up, Christian Wade. Have you gotten any time to work around the guy?
Yeah, a little bit. He's been working in at PP on the punt team.
Okay.
So a little bit here and there.
Okay. The guy, everyone talks about him being an athletic freak. Is there moldable traits there? I mean, I'm sure you're seeing the things that they saw on a, because it's not, you don't get a ton of reps in general doing that job.
Yeah, I think, I don't really know, in terms of the offensive side of the ball, I guess. But I mean, you take one look at the dude, he looks like he can play football.
Okay.
I think it's just a fact of getting reps and being put in good positions, understanding how the game works.
Exactly. And not expecting too much. I mean, we outlined the fact that rugby is wildly different from a philosophical standpoint than football. And we broke it down on one of our podcasts, after which I made a bet against one of our listeners on Twitter that Christian Wade wouldn't even make the practice squad. And now I may end up having to drink a Seagram's for it. So I'm just incredibly interested to see where the guy is.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting if he makes because of the program that he was brought in on,
the transfer program.
Yeah, the international. I don't know the official name, whatever it is. He technically doesn't count against the roster.
Okay, so that's
we can technically have an 11th practice squad player if they want to bring him back on.
Oh no, Chris! Oh no!
So that just increases your chances of drinking a Seagram's.
Oh, well, that's a kick in the nethers right there.
Good shot.
So now, special teams. I'm incredibly interested to talk to you about this and pick your brain a little bit because it's something. I mean, it's a point of emphasis. I mean, when you talk about new look Bills on special teams from 2018 to 2019. In 2017, the Bills had the 10th ranked special teams unit in the entire NFL, according to Football Outsiders. Now, there's a lot of analytics that go into that. And that number represents not just field goals made, but also a mix of stats, including yardage yielded on kick returns and punt returns, and yardage gained on kick returns and punt returns. We were 10th in the league. Last season, Buffalo fielded the 32nd ranked unit. And even when Football Outsiders added in a metric to take inclement weather into consideration, we were still 32nd, even though we had the biggest addition of weather-related points. That's how far things fell off. I know that when we talk about the offensive line situation, $50 million in dead money is a drum that we beat all year last year when people complained about the struggles of the team. When you eat $50 million, that's multiple players across multiple positions. And it also affects...
multiple good players.
Exactly. And it also affects your depth. Okay? That's the other place that it hurts you that the average fan doesn't think about. You think, we didn't have $50 million. Well, that's 5 offensive linemen. That $50 million is also potentially 3 or 4 impact special teams players. And we didn't have the money to go out and get those guys, and you saw the effect that it had on the production. So while the offensive line rebuild got a lot of the press this year, the team made no bones about bringing in fresh blood on the special teams side. I mean, we brought in Andre Roberts and Senoris Perry, who both have kick return and punt return chops. You've got linebacker Vashawn Phillips. We drafted him, and we brought in Maurice Alexander in free agency. And bringing back Corey Carter. So, and I wrote this down. 7 out of our top 10 special teamers in terms of snaps played, including all of the guys who saw more than 50%, are back this season. So it's to be believed based on everything I've seen. They've made it an emphasis to get better on special teams, coverage units, because it's more than just field goals. And I think that the average fan gets caught up in that sometimes. Field goals and did we kick a booming punt that got downed?
Right.
So first of all, when we talk about this, I want to ask about Corey Carter. Corey Carter was a guy you got to spend a lot of time with being his snapper. ACL tears can be tough, especially when it's your plant leg. Now, am I correct? And that's where he tore it.
Correct.
Okay. Is he back doing full drills with this? Oh, he is.
He is, yes.
Oh.
Yeah, he's been kicking all spring.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, last season, the Bills employed 4 punters. They had Matt Darr.
5 if you count the preseason.
5 if you count the preseason, yeah. Carter, Schmidt, Bajorquez, Dar, and who was the fifth one?
John Ryan.
John
For
Ryan.
the Bears game.
I remember him. So it's interesting to me that while they've shuffled through all these other names, Carter was retained on the IR, and instead of being released with an injury settlement, and just sent to waivers.
Him and Bajorquez were both on IR to end the season.
I know.
Yeah.
And now they're the only two who are back here in Bills uniforms. I mean, have they made it clear? I mean, do you think this is a 2-horse race between those two for the starting job?
Yeah, and they've both done a good job this spring of performing in practice and staying on top of their business. I think a large part of both of their off season was trying to get back fully healthy. And we've seen that, with the way they've been kicking the ball so far this, during OTAs, and with minicamp coming up this week, it'll be a good chance to finish on a high note for them going into training camp.
Oh, absolutely. Because I feel like confidence is such a big thing for a punter.
Yeah.
It's like being a kicker, or it's like anything else. There's a lot of because you get so few reps per game that there's this, you have to be perfect. And the pressure that creates, you have to be mentally strong enough. You think about guys like Mike Vanderjagt. Mike Vanderjagt, he was one of the NFL's best kickers, and then he missed one potentially game-winning field goal in the playoffs and lost, and he was never the same kicker again. And so it's interesting to see how guys rebound from challenging seasons, which both of our guys went through.
Right.
They both had their ups and downs. That's something that I'm going to be looking at really closely when training camp rolls around. We just went down a list of just new additions to the special teams unit. Who amongst that group, if you had to say that there was somebody or some guys who are standing out to you as far as guys who you see making an impact, new faces that you see stepping in and making an impact on special teams, who would it be?
Probably, outside of, I guess the first 3 guys you named, Andre Roberts, Sonoris, and Mo Alexander, those guys are going to play a lot of special team snaps for us. So it's going to be fun to watch them. They're fitting in great with the team so far. I know I'm excited to see them in action. And, the first day when we reported back in April, we were running the conditioning test, and afterwards I went up to Andre. I said, "I'm glad you were on our team this year because I was tired of chasing you down last season." So, dude is a legit. The
speed's
takes
there.
It seriously.
So the speed is real, though.
Well, the athleticism, yes, that's there. I'm saying the mental side of it, I've never. I guess since I've been here, this 4th year coming up, never really been around a quote unquote, return, like a true returner, I guess like a Devin Hester type.
Okay.
Somebody that really focuses on specializing.
Yeah.
As a return specialist, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Who make that the focal point of their craft.
And just to listen to him and kind of see how he reads the play. He's not just going out there and running into open space.
I'm just going to run as fast as I can.
In terms of setting up the blocks, where the blocks are going to be, what yard line. He's really focusing on the ins and outs of the new scheme because there's a lot of stuff that's new for all of us with the new special teams coach coming in.
Okay.
So compiling those 2 things: new special teams coach, new returner, new teammates. He's really, he's impressed me trying to do his best to make sure that he can be at his best when his best is needed.
Now, your eyes lit up when I mentioned Mo Alexander.
Yeah, I love Mo. He's been great. Since he's been here, he's gonna be a good player.
Yeah, you see him, safety linebacker.
He does a lot of PP work on punt, so we kind of connected.
Safety linebacker seems like, and if you notice, the Bills have now manning our special teams primarily linebackers. Going back to last season, there was a lot of defensive backs playing. Now these are fast guys, but they're smaller. Little undersized guys who are probably more prone to being blocked out of plays. We've got between Deion Lacey and Julian Stanford. Voshan, Maurice Alexander. Right there's 4 linebackers that are probably playing on your 11-man special teams, your coverage units. That's pretty good. Yeah. These are guys with size, but also speed to get downfield. You just said something that got the wheels of my head turning. Change in special teams coordinator. Now, I know the average NFL fan looks at it and they say, okay, we understand that when a defensive coordinator and an offensive coordinator comes in, they have a system in mind that they specialize in, that they bring in, and it changes the way the team operates. A special teams coordinator, what are some of the things that could change from one special teams coordinator to the other? I mean, I'm a rube, I guess, because I have no clue.
Yeah, a lot of it is the scheme, I guess. You know, every special teams coach has their own scheme that they've built up. And then
does that revolve around block, like the way you block a certain punt?
Yeah, like let's see how to put it. Like for a kickoff return, just do they want to run more inside returns? Do they want to run more outside returns? Do they want to return more to the left, to the right? And a lot of that depends on who you're playing that week. It depends on, okay, we're playing Justin Tucker. He's going to kick it out of the end zone every time. So we're going to run a middle return this week. Okay. Because he doesn't kick to one side or the other. Mm-hmm. We're playing, some other, I can't think off the top of my head, but for example, the Colts guy, maybe. Okay. He always kicks it deep right. So we're going to focus on, double teaming the kickoff team's 3 or 2 or whatever it may be.
Because every lane has a number.
Right. Every lane, there's, with the new rules that they added for kickoffs and kickoff returns last year, you can't have more than 5 guys on each side of the kicker. Okay. So
you can number them.
There's a 1 through 5 and a 1 through 5 on each side of the kicker. Okay. So you know who you're blocking every single time. Okay. But in terms of double teams, which way you're facing on a double team, what leverage you're trying to get, all that feeds into the schemes of different special teams coordinators.
See, I'm not going to lie.
That goes across.
Like I said,
kickoff return.
This may make me sound like an idiot, but I just assumed you guys were running downfield that just reckless abandon. I'm going to run down here and hit somebody.
No.
This is
not Madden.
Yeah, it's not Red Rover.
This isn't Red Rover.
This is NFL football.
So, for you personally, first of all, fresh off a contract extension, which was hilarious because we talked to you literally a day or 2 before it got announced, which was pretty great.
Can I borrow some money?
I'll buy you a Coke.
So when we were talking to you about it, you were like, I don't know, our people are talking, and I'm pretty confident something's going to happen. I assume you already knew. So I'm not, hey, listen, I get it. You're a professional. With that said, what does the security that an NFL contract extension, I mean, just a few years ago, you were a practice squad player.
Yeah.
Now you are not just a guy who can say, hey, I played 2 years in the NFL. You're on a 3-year contract extension. What does it do for you mentally? Does it change your approach to things, or how does it affect the way that you see your day-to-day? Does it give you some added security? I mean, what does it do for you?
Yeah, I think there's multiple facets to what a contract extension gives a player, and not just a 1 year. Here, we're going to offer you a 1-year deal, 2-year deal, 3-year deal. I mean, that's something that is big for me, I guess. Especially in my position, being able to have the trust of the organization, put in me for 3 more years, and hopefully longer past that. But just to be able to all be on the same page. They want me there. I want to be there. We made it happen. And I guess in terms of the day-to-day stuff, it doesn't change how I work on the field, how I work off the field. But it's provided me a little more of an avenue to take more of a leadership role in the locker room, I would say. Because we have such a young team and so many, especially this time of year, with the roster at 90 or almost 90 guys.
And there's a lot of young guys who they're rotating in on special teams just to see who has what.
Right, and I'm trying to get those guys on the same page because the last thing I want, going a step further, the last thing I want to do is get in that third preseason game, and we're running the third punt team out there, and somebody misses their help for me on a block, and you know what I'm saying? And okay, and somebody the punter tears his ACL again, right? So you kind of see the chain of events that can happen. So I got to make sure. Or I don't have to, but I want to, and I feel like I need to. But just make sure everybody's on their P's and Q's, because I'm trying to do my, as Coach McDermott preaches, I'm trying to do my 1/11th on the field, and then worry about other guys next. So I need to make sure. Most importantly, I need to make sure I'm fulfilling my part of that contract extension and performing my best on the field. But on top of that, I think it's allowed an avenue for me to kind of lead younger guys and other guys that either haven't played on the field with me on punt or field goal, and kind of just making sure that we're all on the same page. And I've enjoyed it. I love it.
Well, yeah, it says a lot. Well, it says a lot about your character and the way this front office sees you, because technically you are a Whaley Rex guy.
You're one of the last holdovers.
Yeah.
That is true.
And so
I was just talking to Shaq Lawson the other day about that. We are the 2016. Was that 4 classes ago?
Yeah.
There's 2 of us.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was not drafted.
Yeah. Jesus.
Not bragging at all.
No, I know.
He was first round. I was undrafted. We are the only players left.
That's
from
crazy.
4 years ago.
And I think it underscores why Doug Whaley isn't here anymore. But something stuck out into his point. Something stuck out to your immediate answer was just about the trust that it meant to you. What it meant to you. That speaks to who you are as a guy. That's why I love you, Reid. You're just that guy. Your first place isn't me. It's the collective. It's what it underscores that they have faith in you.
Yeah.
That's how you choose to see it. I mean, there's a lot of guys who wouldn't see it that way. And that's, like I said, that speaks to why I got a lot of respect for you, Mr. Ferguson.
Appreciate it.
So,
likewise.
Now, long snapper is a strange position. There isn't a way to quantify your individual achievements. There isn't a way for me to chart metrics on snaps from one game to the next. Nobody can do it. I mean, obviously, if kicks are going through the uprights and punts are being covered for an average to minimal return, then you're doing your job. But it's not like anybody can go out and draft a Reid Ferguson in fantasy football. My wife actually said, she was like, "Oh, you should draft Reid on your fantasy team." And I started laughing so hard. It's like, honey, you don't understand. You don't understand this.
No stats.
So, with that said, there's obviously things that you push yourself on from one year to the next. Everybody does. What are some of the things that you're looking to improve on or just accomplish this year?
Yeah. I would say, just continue to build on consistency with my snaps. And then
get past the audition round on America's Got Talent.
I don't really know what I would go up there and do, because I can't sing, I can't dance.
You can't do what, magic?
I can't solve a Rubik's Cube.
You can't do magic like what, Dorenbos?
No, I can't. Unfortunately. But no, yeah. So I guess consistency with snaps. That's a perennial, want for me, is to just keep improving in that aspect of things. But I guess more of the downfield area of things. I'm usually, just based on who's on the field, I'm one of the last ones down the field most of the time. So, just just continuing to learn how to read plays as they develop in front of me. As I'm running full speed, it's happening at a very high, very fast pace. So, it's step, and make a move, and either I'm in the right position or I'm not. So, or I'm putting myself in the right position to make a play in 10 yards or whatever it may be. So that's just, it's
just picking up the nuances of the game is what you want to get better at.
Just continuing to better the craft.
It's funny because there's a comedian, Nate Bargatze, who has a joke. and I love it. He's like, you know how I know I'm out of shape? I was watching football, and they kicked the ball off. And I got up and went to the fridge to get a can of pop. And when I came back, the team had run the kickoff back 103 yards for a touchdown. Because it took me longer to get to the fridge and back to the couch than it did for that guy to run 103 yards. There were people there were people on the field trying to keep him from running 103 yards, and I didn't even have an ottoman in front of me. And so I think about that when I think about you down there. You know, you snap the ball on a punt coverage, and then you're off. And yeah, you're probably one of the later guys. You've almost had. I mean, everybody in our basement cheers when we see you make a tackle on TV. Like everyone goes nuts. We're like, oh, it's Reid. Reid got a tackle, or Reid was in on that after the...
Few and far between.
And then there was the game where you almost had a fumble recovery.
Yeah, and then Mike Tolbert stole it from me.
Mike Tolbert took it away from you.
Yeah, why do you think he got cut?
No, it's just...
I will say, to kind of prop up my extreme athleticism, in the Vikings game, I was running so fast that the returner fumbled the ball, and I ran right past it. I tried to fall on it. My momentum was going so fast that I tried to fall on it, and I fell right past the ball.
Oh.
Blazing speed.
Well, I'll tell you what. We look forward to rooting you on this season. I'm sure all of our listeners do as well. Where can they follow you on social media and follow this journey that you have coming up in 2019? Because if you succeed, we succeed.
Absolutely. Yeah. I keep Twitter and Facebook up, Twitter and Instagram, I guess, updated the most. Instagram, you can find me, Reid Ferguson, just all together, one word. And then Twitter handle is SnapFlow69. We like to keep it nice.
Exactly. Reid, thank you so much for coming in tonight. We appreciate it as always.
Thanks for having me on.
You know what we missed last show? Thank you to everybody that downloaded our post-draft show, because it was our first episode to hit 1,000 downloads.
Yeah. Thank you, Reid. Thank you. Yeah, 1,000 downloads. It's weird. And it's weird seeing that almost 900 people, on average, it came out to about the high 800s when you averaged everything out over the course of the draft. Come draft time, there's information being thrown around everywhere. To know that 800 to 900 to 1,000 of you took time to listen to Chris and I. You took time out of your day to listen to us bloviate. It means the world to me, guys. Thank you so much for showing up this week. We appreciate it. Big thank you to Reid for coming and just coming and sitting down with us, talking to us about special teams.
More than happy to.
Chris, what do we got coming up next week? Well, Stadium Talk.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from tonight. We'll record on a Monday again.
We've got some great stuff on this revived stadium conversation. This thing will not die. I thought we were heading in the right direction. It turns out this thing just won't go away. We are going to drag it all out and talk about it. We've got some really interesting stuff lined up. We've got a great guest on tap. It's going to be fantastic. You guys got to come back and check it out. Thank you for showing up. Guys, we got to get out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. That's Reid Ferguson. And this has been the Rockpile Report.